Thank you, everybody, for coming out. This is such a great turnout. We're so happy. We are Vox RVA, a local creator community focused on making sure that the creative-minded people of Richmond have a place to network and find community and have platforms to share their stories. Storytellers, podcasters, stand-up comics, YouTubers, TikTokers, people that make art with their mouths. And this is one of the things we're focusing on tonight is mouth art about the story of America, really. And I'm really honored to be up here. My name is Michael Bickett. I am the host of Vox RVA. Let's get started. I'm going to hand it over to our MC for the evening. Give it up for Emma Ito.
Hi, everyone. Thank you guys so much for being here. This is such a good group. Like, the vibes are so good in here. My name's Amma Ito, pronounced she, her, hers, and I'm actually a public historian that somehow got pulled into this. Usually I'm telling stories about other people, so it's really nice to actually hear from people telling their own story. It's really important. I was just saying before this, imagine historians 200 years from now looking at Virginia history and hearing people tell their own stories. It's so, so important. So thank you so much for being here. I'm just here to introduce people, and I guess I'm sharing your story later, so we'll get there. But first, I'd like to introduce Kefu Huang, who is a Chinese language teacher who moved to the United States to pursue her master's at Northwestern University. She now lives in Richmond, where she teaches young students, tells people around her a little bit about both countries, and advocates for inclusion as a mother of a child with autism. She believes in the power of language, community, and storytelling to build bridges. Give it up.
I don't know why they put me for first, but if there's one thing I'm not afraid of is public speaking, because I speak to young children every day, and that's just part of my life. I grew up in a small city in China, in the southeast coast, where there are 7 million people. Yes, that is a small city in China. My family and my environment always value education is the most important thing in the world. So I remember my grandparents told me that the power of knowledge could take you anywhere. And in my case, it really did. In 2007, I had a suitcase and I got on a plane, traveled by myself across the Pacific Ocean to the land of America for my master's degree, more specifically in Chicago. It was just a weird mixture of feelings: uncertainty, fear, and also the curiosity to the belief that whether knowledge could really take me anywhere. After graduation, the same spirits led me to Richmond, where I landed my first job as a Spanish and Chinese teacher at St. Catherine's School. That's a private all-girls school with over 130 years of history. Yes, 2 languages, Spanish and Chinese, not English. I remember the lawyer of St. Catherine's had to prove to the immigration officer that I was more qualified than any of the American citizens. And I thought to myself, wow, speaking 3 languages, apparently it's a superpower here. Teaching is really a transition of season for me. The first year, 2009, I landed in Richmond. I remember I can see the change of spring. You know where I'm from in China? You don't have to wait for flowers all year round. It's tropical. Palm trees and flowers, you can see them anywhere. But in Richmond, after a cold winter, I really see the flowers of the cherry blossoms start to pop up, one after another. It's like a reward. But of course, after several years, when I started sneezing and apologizing constantly, I noticed there's another reward called seasonal allergy, but that's another story. For me, teaching is a growing pain. Seriously. I did not like teaching at first. I came from a Chinese-style classroom where teacher is centered. It's more strict, and you can really structure the classroom however you want it. But here, I learned how to let go of my control, laugh a little bit more, sometimes even hug a little bit more, and then to celebrate the mistakes of part of the learning process. I really have to say thanks to my parents and my students and my coworkers. Some of them are here today with me. They tolerated my growing pain. They tolerated my accent. They tolerated my cultural mix-ups, but they celebrate every little success that I had. They embraced me with all their understanding and inclusion. But when Richmond really became a home is when my oldest child was born, and he was diagnosed with autism a year later. At that time, I was not only adapting as an immigrant or a teacher, but simply as a mother. And after that, I found a group of tight-knit community, and they really wrapped us around with all the understanding, inclusion, tolerance, and love. And that's when I noticed that I found home. And now, when I walk through a Richmond spring along the Grove Avenue, seeing the cherry blossoms pop up one after another, I noticed that maybe I have bloomed as well, not overnight, but little by little, season by season, with tons of patience, love, and community. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. That was wonderful. I'm like so hopeful now. I want to like go take on the world. I love that. Okay, so I'm going to introduce our next speaker, Amma Gatty, who is the heart behind Culture Encounters. She's a cultural bridge builder who can turn any dinner table into a global gathering and any room into a place where people actually see each other. As founder and executive director, she works every day to make Richmond a place where culture is lived, shared, and celebrated. If you know Amma, you know her family is her grounding place. She is a wife, a mother of a college student, and a middle schooler. Wow. The way she builds community is the same way she builds home with her loved ones, with warmth, curiosity, and a whole lot of food and laughter. Please give it up for Amma. Oh, yeah, I'll hold it.
Good evening. I have a story for you all. I want to tell you about the day I became other. I think I was about 6 years old, and I was in the living room of our 2-bedroom tiny apartment. And I remember the address for some weird reason. It is number 7 Owl Lane, Teshinungwa Estates, Accra, Ghana. And across from me, my father is seated in an armchair across, and I'm watching him, and he seems lost in thought. And his pointer finger seems to be moving just slightly, as though he's arranging some thoughts and plans in his mind. And I look up for a moment, and I look down, and I keep playing. Then I go to bed. Next day, wake up to school. Name of my school, SAP School. It's about a 5-minute walk from where we lived. I go to school, and I come back, and he's gone. And he's gone for a long time. And that was most of my childhood. He would come, and then he would go. He lived in America, and my mom, my brother Kobe, and I lived in Tishinungwa. And every time Dad came, he would bring all the cool gadgets from America, like the color TV. Let me tell you, we were the only kids on our street with color TV. Everyone had black and white, okay? My father lived in America. So we got a color TV, and the kids would peer through the windows trying to get a glimpse of these colors that were coming out of this box. And he also would bring the old, you guys remember the old boom box that lit up, you know, and we had all these cool cassette tapes, and we would listen to cool American music. But then he would leave again. And so were the gadgets that he brought. And later on, I found out that he would sell these gadgets, buy his next plane ticket, and go to America. That was my childhood. And at some point in 6th grade, we were told we were going to America. So, of course, I had this chip on my shoulder because I am going to America with my family. We're going to go to my dad. And for whatever reason, that did not happen. And so we moved on. Mom moved on. I think she was just tired of it. So she married another guy when I was 15, and she moved on. And we did too. We knew one day we would come to America, my brother and I, just didn't know when. So I fell in love with Fred. He's there, right there. I was 18 at this point. I had gone to college, and I also discovered performing arts. And it was cool because I can dance and be myself and be in plays. And that was my world. And then at some point, we got a call from Dad and said he was opening up the petition again, and that this time we would get to come to America. I guess I had moved on, so I was just nonchalant about the whole thing. And now Fred is in my life, and, you know, I didn't want to do the long distance thing at that point. And so on the very day where we had to go for the final interview to get the paperwork for our green card, I also had exam that day. I was in my 3rd year in college. So I did not go to the interview. I told Kobe, my brother, I said, you can go. And if they choose to give us both the visas, you can grab it and, you know, just let me know. And so I went about my day, wrote my paper, and then I got a call from Kobe. And he goes, Charlie, sis, Charlie, we get the visa. We they can't go America. And I was like, what? I did not even show up at the interview. What if it's a fake? You know how people get fake visas, right? Anyway, but then it was real. And so July 2001, with this thick brown envelope, if you've ever gone through the green card process, that's what you travel with. You don't actually get a visa in your passport. You come with this big envelope with all your life written on there. And so I show up, got off the KLM flight to Dallas International Airport. And then I went through the immigration line, got some paperwork the immigration officer handed to me that I needed to fill out. I am a college student at this point, right? So I'm smart. I can read. I know what's on the paper. But there was this one form and one question on this paper that really stumped me. I filled the paperwork, name, address, all of that. And then this one question, the smart college kid could not answer. And that question was race. And on the form, multiple choice, right? It should be easy. It said white, African, I think it was Black, African American, Hispanic, and then a few others, and then other. Now, see, at this point, up until this point, I've always been classified as either half Ebe and half Ashanti. because I identify with my tribe, not my color. And I'm looking on this form, and it says Black/African American. I could have gone with the Black if it just said Black, right? But now there's a slash, and it says African American. I am not African American. So I cannot answer the question. So I did something every smart immigrant would do, I guess. I checked other. And I wrote Ghanaian. Well, I guess it was right because the immigration person didn't think there was anything wrong with my answer. I guess I passed the test. So welcome to America. And I got out, hugged my dad, and got in his car. And we started driving down to Richmond, Virginia. Now, who would have thought? I am coming from Ghana, right? And in my mind, the America I know is the America I see in movies, right? The skyscrapers. And then, those hip hop movie music videos where like, it's the hip hop hooray. Oh, and then the cars are doing the bounce, right? And I am not seeing any of that. There is no bouncing cars. Guess what I saw on 95 South? Trees. Ton of trees, right? And billboards. And so we came to Richmond and stayed in my father's tiny one-bedroom apartment off Riverside Drive. And my dad said, well, you need to find a job. And so the first job I could land, maybe a month or so after, was at Burger King. And most immigrants would tell you, we always start with with the restaurants and also start with the fast food restaurants especially. And we do that because it's easy to get in, right? Here is the problem. Where I come from, we do not have pickles and honey mustard and all the things you guys put on your fancy burgers. We don't have that. Right? And so I am running the drive-through line and all I hear is, pickles, and I'm like, what in the world are these people saying? Needless to say, my lines were always long because the people could not understand me and I could not understand them. And people would always make fun of my accent. I would say something and someone would quickly correct me. I would say things like, are you in queue? And they would say, oh, you mean the line? I would say, oh, nice trousers. And they would say pants. And then I figured that what we say panties, actually underwear. And then, remember, I am in college at this point. I have to relearn how to spell. Color does not have a U. Program does not have the extra M and E at the end. And so I became self-conscious. At 22 years old, I was an extrovert, but I started just coiling in because I did not want that unnecessary attention that came every single time I opened my mouth. And looking back, I wish I were a little more confident in my accent, in who I am, and how I say my name. Over the years, I've tweaked my name. My name is Amma, and now I say Amma because it's softer, and you guys can say it, and I don't have to correct it. And now I try to speak English without pronouncing the T, right? Now you all do the DT thing, and now I'm doing it too. Water, instead of water, right? And I'm trying to fit in. But what if I did not want to fit in and wanted to integrate versus assimilate? There's a difference there. What if I did that? Now, as a middle-aged woman, that's what my kids call me, so I think I'm middle-aged, I am now confident in who I am. Tonight, I'm wearing a Ghanaian outfit because I'm proud of who I am. I am Ghanaian. It is 2025, and I am married to Fred. He's still there. And we have two beautiful children, like you heard. Aseye is at UPenn. I'm so proud of that. And Freddie Asiwome is his name, is at St. Christopher's School. And they're thriving. But the thing I love about my children is that they are able to integrate. They're fully Ghanaian, but yet they're American. And that's the beauty. And now I have founded a nonprofit, y'all. I've moved on up in life. I am the founder of a nonprofit. I'm the executive director. I call the shots. Well, I think I do. And I am the founder of Culture Encounters. And this is a nonprofit that exists to answer one question. Here is the question. What would Richmond, Virginia truly look like if we saw each other, really, really see each other across difference? Thank you.
Thank you so much, Amma. I just want to wait a second because I think we actually need to think about that question. So I really appreciate you saying that. So I hope that you all actually do sit with that question because I think it's really important. Okay, so Sandy Ting is going up next, and she was born and raised in Taiwan. And Sandy still thinks in Mandarin Chinese when speaking English and spent decades teaching special education in New York City before relocating to Richmond. She loves sharing stories, riding bikes and horses, running with her 4 rescue dogs, and backpacking around the world. Her Chinese parents insist that she mention her PhD in education and master's in nursing from UVA. But what Sandy really wants you to know is that she can be easily passed by runners and cyclists of all ages and abilities. Thank you, Sandy.
That is all true, by the way. So my husband, who is here tonight, we are new parents. We have a magical 2-year-old, and I was out walking our dogs yesterday, and I called one of my most reliable and reasonable friends who has a 5-year-old, where I was really curating my question. I was like, you know, when another human wants to do something that they're not supposed to do, but you want them to do something else, she cut me off at the pass, and she was like, listen. And she always has really sage, thoughtful advice. And she said, bribery is a tool. When used in the right way, is incredibly powerful. So I thought about that, and I guess I really needed her permission, right? So the interesting thing is, unrelated to this tonight, but what connected perfectly is bribery is actually what landed me in Richmond, specifically food bribery. So if anyone in here is very food motivated, like me, this particular food I tried to recreate loosely in my home during the pandemic by way of baking a type of bread, send it to my parents. And my mom said, I said, how was it? I really worked at it. And there is nothing I am worse at than cooking, for anyone who knows me. My mom replied to me, 女儿啊,你是不是要杀了我们? Which was asking, were you trying to kill us? And so I sent her an angry text, and she replied in English. And if you're like me, when you read text, you hear it in the voice of the person sending. She wrote in English. I said, seriously, how was the food? She wrote back, more weapon than food. So there's that. And my father, who is a globally recognized chef, opened multiple restaurants. I didn't get that gene, obviously. She said it was the first time she saw him so disheartened when he said, is there any more of Sandy's bread? And my mother said, yes. And he replied, oh. I mean, that is a parent's love, right? So thinking about this food as bribery, early 1940s in China, my mother was just born. She came after my uncle, just before her. My grandfather, my gongong, he packed up the family. Communism was sweeping through China. He packed up his family. He was military police. And he packed up his little family, his wife, my grandmother, his 2 newborn babies, and they're boarding a military police train. It was their final effort to save their lives. So they boarded this train, and right before they got on, the train was about to move. There was a woman. You know what? There was a girl in her late teens. She appeared, and she fell to her knees pleading, saying, "Don't take me. Take my little brother." She held about a 12-year-old boy by the hand. She said, "We're not going to make it." So my grandfather reached out. He grabbed this child because the train was moving and yanked him on board. He was met by his colleagues, who were also neighbors, their friends, but in this case, they were just following orders. They all had their weapons drawn, and they went to throw this child from the moving train. My grandfather, in his clothes, he was prepared for this. He had stuffed delicacies, all these homemade, fresh-made goods that you could not prepare anymore since communism had been sweeping through China. He had them all stuffed in their clothes, and he had emptied all their luggage and filled it with food because these were his bribes. He handed them out to all the officers who were, again, previously neighbors and friends, colleagues. These are his fellow officers. And they responded by just following orders. They drew their weapons. They held it against my mother, a newborn baby, her brother, also a pretty fresh-born baby, and my grandmother, and said, "This child has no ticket. He has no ID. You will drop him from the train." My grandfather, he never let go of this child's arm. With his other hand, he pulled out his own weapon and challenged the rest of them and said, "Then you're going to take all of us out." Never let go of this child. This is my grandfather's story, but it's also my grandmother's story because the thing that stands out, my grandfather said, he said, "I didn't really do anything. Your grandmother." Are there any people in the crowd with small humans that they love or created or... She held on to her two babies, and they said it was the most deep-throated, guttural, primal scream that she never took a breath. And now with our 2-year-old, there's a lot of things I tell her. I never tell her shh or shush or stop. There are times where I say, we're in a space like today at the dentist's office. I said, we talk quieter in this space. A scream, I think I was asked to name my story, and it was really off the cuff. I wrote "Scream Like a Girl." A scream isn't a form of weakness. In this case, my grandmother, it was a primal call. It was a call to our ancestors. It was a call to other people who have people they love. It is something that far weighs just following orders. She never took a breath. My grandfather never let go of this child's arm. And his fellow officers, they walked away with the bribe. They took all of the delicacies. That's what they were there for. And they left this family, who is now a family of 5, alone. So they took the train. It landed in Shanghai, where the family was awaiting more transportation, and then via boat to Taiwan. That's where I was born and raised. But my grandfather only had 4 tickets to board this boat. And it was, from what he tells me, it was a months-long trip. It was a very difficult trip. Because he only had 4 tickets, but the family was now 5, he told this little boy, he said, "I will send for you. I'm going to make arrangements for you here." And then weeks later, he secured the most unimaginable luxury at the time. He got a plane ticket for this little boy who flew to Taiwan and joined the family, who I grew up knowing as my uncle. His sister survived. They were able to be reunited. And a couple years ago, we got a postcard in the mail, and it was a bunch of Chinese people on the card. And if you're a person of color and you ask your family, "Hey, who's this?" you're going to hear, "Oh, those are your cousins." Like, okay. And I said, "Oh, they're from Ohio. Who do we know in Ohio?" And I do know my parents go there and visit. That is the family of this little boy. So we are still connected. They are still our family. And true to our culture to this day, whenever we interact with them, they still say, there's not really an English translation, but the closest I can get to is when someone appears in your life, you treat them as an honored guest. So may we all receive each other as honored guests. And thank you for allowing me to receive you all.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Sandy.
Thank you so much. This is your city and your stories, and this is Vox RVA. Good night.